God is good all the time. If you need the ID to cash a check, you need the ID to vote. Stop allowing these political parties to tell you that you're incompetent and inferior every single day to get exactly what they want. Right now, they talk about the black community every single time frame it becomes a voting issue. The issue is about election integrity and making sure our vote, no matter who you are, counts and is done legally so we can have the actual representative that people decide to have to represent them. Period. Now, the real losers in this situation is Atlanta, Georgia, where the Major League Baseball League decided to remove their All-Star game. Now, what happens in this situation? Because, see, I tell it like it is. I don't tell it because I want to give one side or the other, some extra points here. It's common sense, really, when you think about it. When that game got moved, what's going to happen in Atlanta, Georgia, taxes is going to increase. They was projecting that the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was going to bring in much needed revenue, especially after a pandemic. Now, since that revenue is gone because Major League Baseball was in their feelings with Stacey Abrams and the rest of the Democrats over what they consider an unfair advantage, in all actuality, what has happened to the entire state of Georgia is totally unfair. And it's not because of the GOP, it is because of the Democratic Party. Blame them. Exactly. Who to blame? See, they're not cutting all the businesses out there that lost revenue a check. See, just because they moved it somewhere else, the ordinary private citizen as well as small business will suffer greatly because of this. See, they are trying to bleed a peach dry in Atlanta, Georgia. And now everybody is affected, and now 0 from 0 still equals 0. Even my dog is pissed off, my nice chihuahua. And every time frame she barks, every single time frame I have one of these conversations about common sense, especially when it's because the liberals decide to screw things up. And also about the water issue. Factually, don't take nothing from strangers. Period. If you're going to go and vote, bring your own water. You don't know what's inside that water. It could be a molly. Instead of voting, you may be ending up doing something else that you definitely didn't plan on doing. See, they can go ahead and have all the smoke and mirrors that they want to, but the fact of the matter is there are key people to blame for this disaster. And the first person to blame is such and such Joe Biden. That's what happens when you vote for somebody who's too old to get out of bed and too old to make a conscious decision to the point their own party said, now we want the nuclear codes. Seriously. And now everybody's suffering all over America because of these Democrats' incompetence. Our schools is being destroyed. Our churches can't open. We having them try to take our guns away. And we also have them destroying what's left of businesses so they could give it away to China. The fact is, we got to get out of this complacency and start looking at the facts as it comes your way. Just because somebody says they are a leader or something, sometimes they are leading the charge to make sure their pockets is lined up. Not about making sure that you can take care of yourself and your family. A lot of y'all depended on this all-star game, just like you depend on other events to keep bringing in revenue, especially when you're seeing everything that you worked hard for go straight into the toilet, and it's all of these politicians' fault. And people are still ignorant enough to vote for these lame duck politicians, and continue in this same direction. And that's exactly what's happening here in Virginia. It's going to happen the same way in Georgia if people don't wake up. And New Jersey is dealing with it right now, and hopefully they make the right decision. We are not going to be able to buy our way out of this. Even the $1,400 stimulus that you got, you are going to be paying back almost quadruple in taxes, increases in prices, and basic services and goods will all go up while you're still making the same pay. Or you're making less of it because of unconstitutional mandates and orders that continue to crush you while you're alive. The fact is, when you decide to vote in this type of direction, this is the results that happen from it. See, none of them all-stars, athletes, and politicians has to go to these businesses and say how much harm will be caused by me trying to have the Major League Baseball organization move their game somewhere else. They didn't ask none of them because they didn't care. It was about political points while you starve. See, what these politicians don't get is the fact that just because you get a guaranteed paycheck, no matter how it goes, that's why, like lawyers, doesn't matter if you win or lose, you still get paid. But it's others that have to deal with the consequences directly or indirectly. But the fact is, it always has a nucleus when it comes down to people taking losses. And that comes from the Democratic Party. Now, don't worry about BLM, Antifa. They're going to be okay. You know, we just saw one just buy a $1.4 million house in an area where it's less than 2% black. Even though they screamed out Black Lives Matter, they knew when they got some money, they wanted to move to a safer neighborhood. And do you see anybody else talking about moving along with them? It's still 70 million unaccounted for, and it's going to just single individuals. It's not going nowhere near the black community. Right now, that money should be heading to Georgia at this time period. It should be heading to every single business or person who has died in regards to their actions being paid back in some kind of sustainable way. But right now, the only thing holding that up is the fact that they enjoy the propaganda that they promote because they feel like it wins elections or scares people enough to vote for them. And that's what politics has become. It has become the fear machine promoted by the liberal media and the government that is ran and controlled by Democrats. Factually, people can't afford Democrats no more at this time period. The best decision to make is about who represents your values and who represents your wallet, because their wallet is taken care of. Stop falling for the foolery that people try to put out there, because most of the time frame it's covering up the dirt that they are doing. And that's because they don't want you to know about what they are doing. Do you really think BLM's co-founder really wanted it all over the newspapers? She bought a $1.4 million house while businesses in Georgia are starving and now going to be unplugged from life support during this time period, while claiming to be righteous, while destroying the nuclear family and also trying to make sure our men and women are castrated and the normal family guidelines is no longer applied for their communist plan. I know that sounded like a lot, but it really ain't. See, I don't fall for BS by far. I could care less how people try to spin it. I have my own independent brain to know better. What's going to happen is all of Georgia is going to face an increase in taxes. Those businesses are going to be paying more while making nothing and losing more. And those who are already struggling to make ends meet will end up having to do things that they never thought they would have to survive. And the sad thing is they voted for it. and still don't understand that their vote went to this. That's why you have so many conservatives trying to wake up everybody in America to start saying to themselves, can you continue in this direction? The fact is, it wasn't just a mistake for Joe Biden to become president. It was actually all in the plans of the New World Order to have somebody be their token while carrying out their agenda. Hundreds of thousands more people are out of work because of what is going on. When you cut revenue from businesses, they have to start cutting jobs. That means more people struggling all across America and more unemployment claims being filed as a result. We got to get America back to work, people. And the only way we're going to do that is getting over this fear. My thing is, if I take a vaccine, if you're going to still be masked up anyway, all that is for you to become the next guinea pig for the government's agenda. This is a time for people to really have some self-reflection and examine themselves and see if their government is worthy. And right now, they're not. We can talk all we want to about what's going on the other side and vice versa, but if we voting in rhinos, we're doing the other side's job. We got that with Mitt Romney. But what we must pay attention to at this time period is looking at each other, our neighbors as well as our family, and say what's the best decision to move forward and protect what is left that we have, and how can we make sure you have a future that you can believe in. Because the sad thing is, most Americans don't believe in the future that is being put out there by Democrats, because right now they are dealing with the consequences. That's why we can never let something like this happen again. The lockdowns has taken a lot of people's mental health, their sanity, and their finances, and any kind of stability that they used to have is now on the border of basically flatlining. And it's just getting worse. Gas prices, go to the grocery store, you can read in the paper where you're seeing these increases. These increases is taken away from what you don't have to give. The best thing you can do is get involved and not make knee-jerk decisions, and continue to pay attention to what's going on in America from your local government to state as well as federal, because they all bleeding you dry. And they doing it for political points. So if I didn't say enough right during this time period to say, hey, I got to start thinking about who I vote for and who I pay attention to, then nothing else will. That's why it sounds good when a political party says they want to save everybody. But the fact or the reality is you can't. People going to look after themselves. Self-preservation is a priority to people whether they say it or not. And trust me, those politicians and those who are telling you one way or the other, they don't have to deal with the consequences. You do. They get to go back to their mansion. You get to figure out whether you're going to have a roof over your head in the next month. And what I just said is real all over the country. They're not reporting it because they don't want to panic. But the problem is, just because they ain't reporting it, it doesn't take away from the fact that you are in panic mode. I pray for each and every one of you. And I hope God continues to provide and bless you. But the fact is, you don't stand up for him now, that may be the reason why you are going through what you're going through. Evil comes in many different forms. To steal, kill, and to basically make a deal. And you got to stop making a deal with the devil and start standing up for what is right. Far right. And that's words out of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So you have a wonderful weekend. And I hope people learn from this that just because somebody full weekend. Bye bye.